Hello there, Tokenauts. Welcome back to TokenTimes 2.0. Today we're going to discuss the FCA Sandbox. So the FCA is the UK's Financial Conduct Authority, which is the institute within the UK that deals with, almost all financial and regulated matters, within finance. The FCA for a few years now has been trying to foster innovation. And they've been doing this through this thing they call the Sandbox, which is this regulatory playground, essentially, where companies like TokenCard, like ourselves, can go into it and demo and show the FCA what their new experimental technology or their new experimental financial service is, right? Something that, often has never been done before, and that the FCA is very keen to understand and look at, probably give guidance to. Now, a lot of companies make applications to the FCA Sandbox every year. Not a lot of them get through, though. And so we're very excited and very happy to indeed share with the world that TokenCard has been selected as one of the few applicants to actually pass into the Sandbox. We're one of the only, and probably one of the first as well, historically, direct-to-consumer crypto-related projects. So there have been numerous blockchain-related projects in the Sandbox in the past, with only some small exceptions. Most of them have just been DLTs, right? Distributed ledger technologies that apply blockchain on a corporate level, business to business. We are one of the very first, and we're very happy that the FCA has given us this opportunity and chance. One of the very first companies that has taken not just blockchain, but specifically cryptocurrency, right, such as Ether, such as whatever tokens, and trying to bring that to the consumer, right? This is quite the cutting edge. So of the companies that have entered into this new Sandbox, about 40% of them are doing something or other with blockchain. Most of them, however, are doing stuff with DLTs, with distributed ledger technologies, which are private blockchains, effectively. Some of them are doing something with live mainnet, right, like public blockchains, such as Ethereum, such as Bitcoin. This is the first time, however, that the FCA is allowing a company like ours, a crypto direct-to-consumer company, to operate within the Sandbox. And this is quite new. They've included something about that in their press release as well, in which they say that we have accepted a number of firms that will be testing propositions relating to crypto assets. We are keen to explore whether in a controlled environment, consumer benefits can be delivered while effectively managing the associated risks. This basically means that for the first time or so, a company that's trying to bring crypto into the hands of the general public is in the Sandbox, and they're very keen to see if this company can deliver users with real value, right? Being able to hold and trade and spend and whatever their crypto assets, whilst the company mitigates all the risks traditionally associated with cryptocurrencies, such as getting hacked, losing your funds, volatility, being scammed, all this kind of stuff. They want to see us uphold the highest standards of customer protection. And that's what we're going to try and do. And that's exactly what we think we can do. So after the announcement went live, of course, a lot of you had questions. And so that's what we want to handle today. So let's get into the questions. The FCA Sandbox is great, but why is it good for Token? And doesn't it slow down the rollout of the cards? So the short answer is no, it doesn't slow down anything. So the FCA is very keen on having tests within their Sandbox that approximate real life. So the FCA isn't really interested in restricting our application for the Sandbox arbitrarily. They want tests to basically be as if we are in the real world operating in real life. And so as long as we can demonstrate that whatever we're doing, maybe this could be 100 cards in the wild, as long as we're demonstrating that we can actually run those cards successfully without issue, they're happy for us to keep scaling. We do so with their approval, however, so if we're going from 1,000 cards to 10,000 cards, we're going to make sure we discuss that with them first and that they say, yeah, everything looks good, please go ahead. But ultimately, they just want to see us do what we would do in real life, because otherwise the test is not very viable. Should we expect that going through the FCA Sandbox program will allow you new practical possibilities that will give you access and advantage over other similar projects when it comes to things like business models, partnerships, available markets, etc.? So yes, there are some decidedly big benefits to us being in the FCA Sandbox. Some of those benefits include the fact that our partners who are non-crypto, we're working with a lot of them, are very happy to see that we, as a crypto company, are working with, a big government, with, a prestigious, probably one of the most prestigious governments in the world, the UK's FCA, on what we're doing. So this is a very good indicator to them that we're trying to do the right thing, that we're in the vanguard of companies that are leading the industry, the crypto industry, towards a very new and bright future. This has opened up new doors and avenues to us that previously weren't open before we were in the sandbox. Token markets are in the sandbox alongside you. They are working on tokenizing shareholding of companies. Are you speaking with them? So for us, the other entrance into the FCA Sandbox only became known to us on the day of the announcement. All the applications are independent of each other. It's not like we're in some group. It's like we all have our own sandbox rather than sharing one big one in a way. We are, of course, free to, meet up with TokenMarket and discuss plans if there's anything interesting to do. However, for now, we're focused on our own thing. I'm sure they're focused on their own thing as well. Indeed, if we both make it out the sandbox on the other side, there are definitely things we can talk about and see if we can collaborate on something. Then we move on to app and card questions. It's been a very interesting few weeks because the app has been rolling out to a very select, special moderator group. So it's been a very exciting few weeks for the team here, for the engineering team, because the app has been rolled out to a very small number of users. These are mostly Discord moderators, so we thank everyone who's on Discord, who's always helping us, specifically the mods. We've been receiving a lot of amazing feedback from them about the app, and a lot of which we're incorporating and working on and fixing all the bugs. So specifically what we're working towards now in terms of gradual rollout is that we somewhat soon, when we're ready, when we feel confident, we want to indeed expand the group, the size again, to include more people on the Discord rather than just a small group of mods. It'll be the larger Discord community so that we can indeed build even more feedback and upgrades. We're not there yet, but this is soon. Will you try to include the youth of crypto? In the UK, anyone above 11 can get a Visa card. What are your age restrictions? So as it stands, the policy that Ben has drafted, our head of compliance has drafted, is that only people above the age of 18 can apply for a card. We think at this time, our risk assessment of the state of the industry, we definitely believe that crypto has an amazing future for the youth, right? There's no doubt in my mind that everyone in the world, young and old, should be able to have a wallet. But, however, this early day and age of crypto means that it's still very dangerous and very volatile, and there are many things that need to be solved, anything from the wallet security as well as the actual assets available to people today are still in a very early stage, as I see it. And we don't think it is right for us to welcome people under the age of 18 who might not quite be aware of the risks they're taking and what they're doing. Now, this doesn't mean this policy will be like this forever. In the future, we'll make another risk assessment of the state of the industry, potentially depending on how our app handles risk, and we could revise that limit. So for now, however, indeed, only 18 plus. Yeah. Someone asks what the security risks are if you were to lose your phone. Can people access your funds? So ultimately, our app requires a number of things. Your phone needs to be quite new. So only later versions of iOS have the right type of secure enclave in which we store your private key, in which you store your own private key. If your iPhone doesn't have this, you'll have to chuck it out and get a new one, right? Because we don't want users to risk their stuff. These are only like old iPhones, right? Like iOS 8 and above, which is at this point like 5 years old, does have support for what we need to do. On Android, the secure enclave equivalence isn't as widely supported on all phones. Notably, a lot of cheaper Chinese flagships lack support for this, but if you have a Samsung or a lot of good, better phones will definitely have this. We're still figuring out which phones we want to support, but we want to make sure that at this stage, our app really only works on devices that actually have, that are themselves secure. If you have a rooted device, very sad to say, but no, we're not going to have your phone support the app. It just opens up so many avenues to like disaster. Other apps do it. We have higher standards. So in the case that your phone is compromised, or that you've lost your phone and someone's picked it up, first and foremost, the app will require you to have Face ID or Fingerprint ID enabled, or have an advanced PIN set up. So that's the main, thing preventing someone to get into the app at least. The app itself can have a PIN independently, in addition, enabled to. Fundamentally, the private key is protected by either Face ID, Fingerprint ID, or the iOS native PIN code that you have enabled. And because we store your seed inside the iOS Secure Enclave, which is this hardware, software package that Apple has created inside your iOS device, your newer iOS device, into which an app can store a very small amount of data, fully encrypted, like so hard to get to that, it's impossible. Our own app only is able to access the private key once you yourself have presented your face or shown your fingerprints or put in this PIN. Few apps within crypto even do that to secure the seed. We do that. In addition, not to mention, obviously, the fact that the funds are fundamentally secured in a contract wallet, which you've set up properly to only allow withdrawal to certain locations. So will a user's card have their name on it? Well, good question. The short answer to that is yes. Someone asks, is there a possibility to have more than one balance? Like in banking, a spending account, a separate savings account, and maybe even a third with goals like groceries or vacation? So that's an amazing question. In the future, we think we'd like to do something like that. However, right now, this is just not the focus or priority. We will get there. We totally see there being sense in having multiple pots and being able to manage funds like that. However, to start, the way users will manage funds is in contract wallets, and you might have different types of contract wallets for different purposes. So this is how we could go about it. Will a DApp browser be built into the app? The way I think of the app as it is today is that it is effectively a DApp browser right now. Only the app has been engineered to browse one very specific DApp, which is the token contract wallet. So basically what you're seeing when you use the phone is you're seeing an interface which is optimized to behind it on the Ethereum network to use this one very specific type of smart contract, which is the token smart contract consumer grade contract wallet. Effectively, yes, it is right now a DApp browser. Is the Android app almost ready for testing? Great question. I've been asking the team this as well because I'm an Android user. So as it stands, the plan is to have a stable version of iOS that we're confident we can launch to a wider testing group first, and then that version will turn into an Android version as well. It's all React Native, so it's very easy to make an Android or iOS version of the code we have, but it saves time if we focus on one type first and then get to a state that we like and then make it also work for Android. And because otherwise every feature we'll have to code it twice basically, which we might remove that feature a week later, say. So that's why it's more efficient to have one state, one channel first, and then later also make this work for Android. But the Android version can be launched very quickly once we're at the stage where we're confident. So that shouldn't be long. At what point is KYC required for the app? Will wallet use be restricted to verified users only? So, I'm very happy to say that, because we are decentralization geeks, right? The idea very much is to have our wallets and app experience, the combination of the two, to have this be fully decentralized in the sense that you don't need to make an account or anything other than like randomly generating a seed on the device to actually use all of this. Only the moment you bridge the gap from the decentralized world into the centralized world, which is in the case of applying for services like the card, only at that point will we do KYC on you, will we do AML checks on you, due diligence, all this stuff. It's only once you cross from the decentralized world to the centralized services world, which is the card and other services later, will we need to do KYC on you. For the app itself, no KYC needed. You are completely on your own, roaming the Ethernets with your contract wallet in hand. So yeah, no KYC. Will the wallet display all ERC20 tokens? As people use ERC20 tokens for marketing these days, is it possible to hide or whitelist the names of tokens that you wish to be displayed? This is a nice idea. I will speak to Mike and Anthony about this, and Dan. We definitely want to be able to have users hide specific ERC20 tokens, because I agree the protocols being used in ways that aren't just for valuable assets. And it's obviously just useful for people to be able to turn on and off tokens they don't want to see right now. This isn't a feature we're working on right now, but it's definitely a feature we'll want to include sometime soon. So thanks for the idea, we'll discuss. If the wallet contract needs to be redeployed for security or feature upgrades, will a new wallet be required for every user? Will funds need to be moved across to the new wallet? This is an interesting question. As it stands, the answer is yes. If we have, let's say token contract wallets V1 over here, and we just issued a half year later, we issued V2, which has new features, then indeed you'll be able to keep the seed, but we'll have to redeploy. We'll have to deploy this new one, and you'll have to move funds from the old one to the new one. We're still designing the process around that, and in the future it's going to be more sophisticated still, but we're not at that stage. However, I would specifically mention that we don't plan to bring out smart contracts very often. They'll be like V1 release, V2 release, half year later, 9 months later, something like that, and then V3 another 6 months after that. It's not going to be like every week there's a new update, because we want to make sure that every single public version of the smart contract we issue is thoroughly audited and thoroughly tested. Whatever the case, we do only plan to release updates to the smart contract wallets every half year or so. It's not going to be like weekly rollouts, as if it was the app. The app might get weekly rollouts, but the smart contracts, we want it to be, quite static for obvious reasons. We want to make sure anytime we do push out an update, that it's gone through months of testing and audits, and that we ultimately feel very confident in putting this out. And so that you can't have both, weekly updates to the contract wallets and have top tier security. So we're going to have big releases rather than incremental releases. Currently, it doesn't have a delete function. We don't want to have that function and add complexity, but it'll just be removed from the UI. It's still on the Ethereum network, of course, but it's no longer active, and so now the V2 becomes the primary wallets displayed. So that's probably what it'll look like. Not finalized again, and we can definitely make this a really smooth, amazing experience. Right now, it's a bit hacky. But ultimately, people realize that we are literally pioneering this, right? No one has ever done this before. you guys, together with us, we're experimenting on the complete cutting edge. This app, and what we're trying to do is the state of the art. It's sweet. We're making things up as we go. We love your feedback, and yeah, we're very conscious of trying to make this a user-friendly experience that is nice, that makes people feel safe. So that's it for TokenTimes 2.0. We'll make sure that all the other questions that were unanswered, and there were some, that they all are moved to the next Q&A that we host. Today we wanted to keep it specifically about the Sandbox and about all the updates relating to the app rollout to the alpha testers. Please be aware, again, that some of these questions we simply can't answer, because we have multiple restrictions imposed to us by, anything from the FCA to our partners to, internally policies. It just makes talking a bit more difficult, and I'm definitely the most liberal person in the company, so everyone always gets really scared when I get behind the camera or in front of the camera. But all the answers will be made clear over time, and everything's going really well. We're really excited. So ultimately, thank you all again for watching TokenTimes 2.0. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.